Dan and I met at Elmhurst College and dated for a very long time before we got married. Bought a house together, had a dog together, and got married and still didn't have any rush to have children. We just were enjoying life and traveling and doing all the things we wanted to do. And when it came time to decide to start a family to add to our dog that we had, we realized that that was not as easy as we were once taught it would be. We were going to become parents. Our path there might be altered, but we would figure it out. And for us, using artificial reproductive technology allowed us to have a chance to have a baby. And Ferris is that miracle baby of ours. The first 2 years have been amazing and joyful, and it was more than I ever thought it would be as a mom. It was a very typical Saturday morning. Got in the car, we're going to a farm. It was fall, so we wanted to decorate our brand new home with some pumpkins and had some lunch, and everything was fine. And all of a sudden, my left arm went into extreme pain beyond anything. And I have in very, very high tolerance for pain. I pride myself off of that being the competitive person I am. But it got really, really intense and unlike anything I ever felt. And then when we got to the short walk to the pumpkin patch, it had spread through my chest. It was something beyond my control, and it wasn't going away. And it stopped me from functioning to the point of where my husband, Dan, said, if you don't tell me you're okay and you don't sit up, I'm calling 911. And I was just thinking, what happened to our normal Saturday? Like, we were literally just supposed to get pumpkins, and now I'm sitting in a little tiny golf cart about to be wheeled back over to the parking lot to be in an ambulance.
Took a few hours to figure out what was going on, but they had utilized nitroglycerin in the paramedic unit to help her stabilize, and she was very much coherent. Being we were in the middle of a pandemic, there was limited amount of people who could be in the hospital, so we had agreed that because they had to keep her overnight for tests, that the best thing to do was bring Ferris and my in-laws back to Indianapolis so we'd be in a more stable environment for him. She was bored when she was sitting in the emergency room. She was ready to go home. She was ready to return to our life. And because she had such a positive disposition when I left, it really didn't occur to me that this was going to end up being as serious as it was.
They apparently were moving me out of the ER that night into another floor. And when they were moving me onto the bed, unhooked up to anything, the doctor that was on call there said I went into cardiac arrest and fell over.
They were able to, through a series of CPR and then defibrillation, revive her, but she did flatline. The hardest part of taking that phone call was the moment that I recognized that I may indeed become a single father that night, and that's not something that you're ever prepared for.
When he said, you went into sudden cardiac arrest, and you were on a ventilator, and this, just a sense of how, why me, what is happening? Am I going to die? Wait, I already did die. How am I going to move forward? But that first moment of being told this and having to wrap my mind around a new me was incredibly humbling. After doing an angiogram, there was no blockage. So what I really wanted was to be told, stop eating this, stop smoking this, stop drinking this. None of that was applicable. There was no blockage. I don't smoke. It wasn't that issue. It was, we don't know. Sometimes this stuff happens. Tell us what led up to that. When we were going through infertility, one of the biggest and strongest cheerleaders in my life, besides my husband, was our dog, Mr. Big, a toy Maltese, 7-pound little fluff ball. When Ferris was 2 years old, and we had just moved to Carmel, Indiana, Mr. Big, in that October, the week of which that I had cardiac arrest, that previous Wednesday, Mr. Big died in my arms unexpectedly. And it totally shattered our worlds. And they asked, well, what had happened during that week? We're trying to piece together why your heart did what it did when we can't see any blockages and we can't see anything wrong. They put 2 and 2 together and had diagnosed with the Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, or broken heart disease, and that sudden stress and shock of losing our dog, Mr. Big, perhaps is what sent my heart over the edge and into the arrhythmia and the stopping of which it did. When I got back to Carmel, and they decided the best bet for me would be to get a defibrillator. And I'm going to continue working out and continue eating healthy. I might even now just use my voice and get out there so I can help other Tesses that are walking around that might think they're invincible because they're doing everything right, realize that heart disease doesn't discriminate, it doesn't pick and choose. American Heart Association has always been something that I knew of, and I was thinking about the fact that I'm a woman, this just happened to me, and I started also being told the statistics and just how amazingly grateful I am that I'm the statistic that made it. Because I was hearing stories from people saying, I knew someone who was next to someone who was 41 years old in the room and they didn't make it. Or I had an infant daughter and she didn't make it. Or this person collapsed on the field in high school and they didn't make it. And I started thinking, those souls, they need me to talk, because I did make it. And it was exhilarating with American Heart to stand behind me, because I felt like I have this big name that's supporting me. To have these people that didn't know me but knew my story and said, talk about it, this can help others. And it just drove me to keep going.